we've all been executing a playbook like that for about 20 years as a practice. And you can call it inbound marketing, marketing automation, but the very founders of that playbook are now saying it doesn't work anymore. Like, it doesn't work.
I'm Jonathan Gandolf, and welcome to the Content Cocktail Hour, powered by AudiencePlus. Our mission is to shake out the deepest secrets of B2B marketing professionals and stir up fresh conversation, all to help you connect your brand with the right audience at the right time. Let's raise a glass. Welcome back to the Content Cocktail Hour. We have a very special episode for you today. I'm excited to be joined by founder of AudiencePlus, Anthony Kennada. We're going to talk all about the announcement that AudiencePlus made yesterday, the joining of forces between two brands, kind of the past and how we got here independently, how we've come together here in just the last couple of months and made the announcement yesterday, and then what we think that means for B2B marketers moving forward. So I'm really excited for today's conversation. It's going to be a bit of an unplugged, kind of raw and open back and forth, unscripted. You know, you pour a lot of time, energy, effort, and resources into a perfectly executed announcement. And then after that, it's kind of nice to just shoot the shit a little bit here, talk about what's going on in both of our worlds, and excited to dig into all of that conversation here today. So thanks for joining us. Anthony, in your own words, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Yeah, thanks so much. And super exciting week. So looking forward to this conversation. So I've spent the better part of, 15, 16, 17 years or so working in B2B marketing. I've come up through kind of the sales side of the business, through product, kind of had a number of different routes throughout the industry, but really fell in love when I found myself in B2B marketing. And the starting point of that journey was at a company called Gainsight, where I was the first kind of marketer in. We were sort of pre-revenue, or maybe had just, a handful of customers, and built that business to about 100 million or so of revenue. And what worked in that playbook wasn't kind of the predominant best practices of the day. If you think about like predictable revenue back then, or like all of these kind of predictive lead scoring things, or, name your kind of transactional kind of channel for generating pipeline, we built a brand. We used content in a really strategic way to build a relationship with our audience. We did a lot of events and found means to basically convene people that are within our audience into our community, and many other kind of random things like carpool karaoke videos and whatnot, which is maybe a whole other podcast. But sort of fell in love with this idea that we can kind of bring what the folks on the creative side of marketing, or folks on the even consumer side, have really invested as like the predominant way brands should go to market, which is building brand, authentic, community-driven, purpose-led brands, not just to grow our sort of awareness in the market, but better than that, to help actually drive revenue outcomes. So that kind of was something that I deeply believed now as a marketer in my whole kind of career. A couple other CMO journeys along the way, and then kind of got inspired to start this business called AudiencePlus, looking to what was happening really on the content side of all of that. At the time, Salesforce Plus was just introduced. Obviously, things like podcasts and kind of the rise of the sort of independent media trend started coming up. And then thinking through, how do we as marketers, as brands, leverage all of this audience engagement that's happening, that today lives in third-party places. It lives in YouTube, it lives in Spotify, Apple Podcasts. How do we actually drive that relationship into our own kind of funnel, so we're not just renting that relationship, but we truly have kind of ownership over the relationship with our audience? And so it built this software product, and has been spending the last 3 years working on it and really trying to evangelize audience marketing as this next big wave for B2B marketers.
I love that. Anthony, you and I first crossed paths. I think when AudiencePlus was announced, we shared an investor. We had admired what you all had built. And I think it's really interesting that brand versus revenue, it feels like option or choice that marketers are being forced to make. Like, we could either invest in brand and events, the carpool karaoke type of stuff, versus we could invest in this like inbound engine, coin operated playbook that it kind of rose to popularity in the 2000s and with the rise of inbound marketing and gated content. And I felt like when you and I met, we were both kind of going at the same problem of like, we've kind of like broken down content marketing, and even those words have started to mean like different things to different people. Like, content marketing has almost become the enemy for good content, of like, if you just create an audience and build with your audience and build for your audience, like, it will turn into revenue if you're creating the right content over time.
Right.
And I think marketers were looking for the like hacks, right? Or the ways to shortcut that time, effort, energy, and resourcing that goes into creating really quality content. It just felt like we were going at the same challenge from very different angles. We at The Juice had built, our vision was to modernize the B2B content experience because we felt like that experience of driving somebody to your website, forcing them to fill out a form, ungating content, downloading a content, then you're in a marketing automation drip. And it's just like, whoa, like I was just looking to educate myself or advance my career or do professional development. And we had never looked at it from hosting content perspective. And you guys built these beautiful like owned media properties. And so it felt extremely complementary. So maybe let me just get your reaction to that on like this current environment that we're in where it does feel like brand versus demand has become a decision that marketers are being forced to make when really they should be irrevocably like tied together.
Totally. Yeah. Brand, or maybe in our B2B lexicon, corporate marketing has historically been viewed as a cost center, whereas demand was obviously the like quote unquote predictable kind of revenue machine, like dollars in, dollars out. At least that was the expectation that was really set for us. And the challenge has been, we've all been executing a playbook like that for about 20 years as a practice. And you can call it inbound marketing, marketing automation, but the very founders of that playbook are now saying it doesn't work anymore. Like it doesn't work. Buyers are getting smarter, or at least wiser to our tricks maybe in marketing of trying to gate content to drive a conversion, to have an SDR now probably a agent basically like call them 100 times or spam them or put them into a nurture sequence that they never signed up for, only to get that unsubscribe. And so I think as an industry, we're sort of looking for new ideas. We're like, well, okay, well, if everything we've known as a community is no longer working, what will work? And I think that's what presents a pretty awesome future, I would say, or even present, in the sense that what works is the very human things that have worked all along that we kind of got distracted by with automation. This idea of being authentic, of delivering real value through our content program, of building relationships, of engaging folks within our audience who care about our topics. You know, there's some data that I believe the math is 95% of the people that are hitting our website or are engaging with our content, they're not ready to buy. Right. They're there to learn and grow and engage, and only 5% is actually ready to buy. And so that's what's really kind of exciting about this future, but also I think this, you know, the coming together of these two companies and two products is if you can take your content program and get it in front of the 95 and build that relationship with your ideal audience, if you can then kind of get a sense of who's in market and take maybe some of your other content that is more reserved around buying use cases or your products or so on and push those as needed to the 5%, like you're getting like a lot more leverage on your content distribution than you otherwise would get just publishing to the internet. So that's something that I think that, to your point, as we sort of started spending more time together, it was like these two things just sort of belong together in a way to give modern marketing teams a great way to get more leverage out of their content, ultimately drive more engagement, drive more downstream conversions, and hopefully on the other end, more revenue.
Yeah, love that. It's all about presenting the right content to the right person over a long enough time horizon. It does drive revenue. And I think the good marketers just have to trust that and partner with solutions who empower and enable that. And I'm excited to do that with AudiencePlus into the future. So that's a great segue. You kind of teed it up perfectly. Let's talk about kind of the joining of forces here.
Yeah.
I previewed this a little bit. You and I met for coffee, I think almost a year ago.
Right.
Almost exactly in Scottsdale.
It was you, me, and JJ Watt, if I remember.
I was going to mention that. I was going to say there's too much inside information, but JJ Watt was there. He was there with his daughter. He was chasing his daughter around the restaurant, which is just like a pretty cool like human moment to see this.
Totally.
100-millionaire athlete chasing his toddler around the restaurant. So parents can take some solace in that even the star athletes chase around their kids. But I remember that. And I think like we explicitly both knew is like, hey, there's a world in the future where we both grow these businesses and eventually we almost are forced to compete with each other. Yeah. Or there's this world where we partner together and there's something really cool there. Now, that said, we were both like entrepreneurs, founders, fighting our own internal challenges with our own products, our own customers, our own go-to-market motions, you know, just all the difficult macro environment as well. But I think we both saw that vision. So maybe I'd just be curious kind of between that meeting and recording this podcast, what excites you about this path? When did you realize, how did you realize that like there's an opportunity in the market to do this and ultimately kind of the decision to go down this path?
Yeah, for sure. And I think about that coffee quite a bit as you think about the story, because that was, I think, the first point. Like, in addition to thinking about the potential for partnership, we were attacking it from sort of different angles in a way, right? In the sense of, I think we were really focused on creating this digital experience and helping sort of drive towards this conversion kind of moment. And you guys were saying, all right, well, how do we actually help customers kind of drive more adoption of their content in front of the right audience and then give them the data ultimately that they need? What was interesting about that to me was data was sort of the common denominator between both value propositions. And we were kind of, again, coming at it from complementary ways. But to your point, there was probably a narrowing of paths at some point down the line where we may or may not have competed. One of the big insights for me was talking to a lot of our customers, and some of the feedback that we got from customers as they were using the product, they were in market, was, hey, this is great. We love how the content is presented. It's on brand. It feels like an experience that we're very proud of, but we need to drive more eyeballs. We need to get more people to actually engage with our content. How do we do that? And so then we're thinking, okay, well, how do we prioritize some of these feature requirements, and how do we think about how we help customers solve that problem? And I think that was one of the moments that the light bulb sort of went off of, gosh, there's probably a way to do this in partnership versus doing it kind of individually. I think, we're both small companies, we were a very small team kind of with AudiencePlus. That, I think, was the sort of inception point. But then I think the more we started talking, certainly feeling like, shared sense of values and the type of company we want to build, shared investors, it felt like it's one of those, not to be super cheesy, but 1 + 1 = 3 type of moments where, hey, I think we can really solve this problem well for our joint customers, for the market at large, if we can help on the distribution side. And hopefully if AudiencePlus can help bring kind of this modern digital experience to the table as well from a hosting perspective.
Yeah, this is such an reinvigorating conversation. You literally just recording this, because it's so fascinating. You said, how do we get more eyeballs on our content? And we had conversations with customers who are like, this is great. We love the distribution. We're seeing more traffic, but how do we convert better on it? And that's what AudiencePlus is for, right? Is that better experience that drives to the conversion point that you referenced earlier. It's just yeah, man, we have two sides of the coin here, and let's just make them one coin. 1 + 1 = 3, I think, is exactly right. And your data as the thread. I remember you had promoted or maybe launched or announced, I forget, but Copilot, this capability to say hey, we market to a VP of marketing at companies of 500 plus employees. What should we be producing? What are they interested in? What do they care about? Inside of our product, we've always called that persona analytics. And I remember when you guys shared Copilot, I literally put that in Slack, and I was like, this is a really cool way to think about persona analytics. Is kind of that with the rise of the AI chat.
That's right.
That back and forth that now we're all capable of. I think that data thread between the two products is incredibly exciting.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I think that was probably another very important moment for me, which brought me back to our conversation, was thinking about data as almost an existential thing for marketing teams now. Because surely, we have markups kind of functions. Surely the ability to attribute content to demand is important to prove the impact of marketing on, revenue. All that has always been important. But what's new is this idea of these generative models and these agentic workflows that are here. And for marketing teams to be able to take advantage of this innovation, that would be a soft way of saying it, not be wildly disrupted as an organization, but actually thrive in this new intelligence age. You need first-party data about your audience to understand which personas care about which topics and consume content in specific formats. All of this metadata is a gold mine of opportunity to help drive downstream kind of workflows or generative kind of capabilities. Without it, we can go to ChatGPT, you can get decently close on some of these prompts, but the real combination for the enterprise is the combination of proprietary data plus generative or agentic workflows. So I think if you're a marketer today and you're okay, well, do I really know who's consuming my content? Do I know, again, what topics are resonating, what creators maybe in our network are driving the most impact, or maybe even which specific buyer cohorts, personas? All of that is existential to this next chapter of our industry. So I think with these two products coming together, it presents an opportunity for folks to get their data in order, actually like lift the veil of what's happening within your audience and actually be in a position to take advantage of the coming innovation.
I'm off camera when I'm not talking about, I'm just like nodding vigorously. And this is, again, kind of like why we're so excited. I know you've talked about like audience graph and that first party data, the ability to create that. What's interesting, the Juice has always, admittedly so, been like second party data, right? We've got a bigger, broader network of data that we're generating. And then you could even start to infuse third party data into these like first and second. And just, it creates this beautiful opportunity for marketers to be able to actually understand. I think for too long, marketers have arbitrarily been creating content, and it's easier than ever to arbitrarily create content now. I think you're right. The marketers who aren't taking advantage of the innovation are going to continue to do that and suffer, unfortunately, where those that do know how to use the technology and specifically have the data to feed the technology will certainly benefit from it. But like the AI thread, like how, like there is a bit of a fear factor here for marketers, right? Who feel like they're, not able to adopt it fast enough or not able to stop what they're doing to actually learn and educate themselves. Like as you were thinking about the next evolution of Audience Plus and going down this path, like how big of a role did how quick everything is changing right now with AI play a role in needing to determine what's next?
Good question. Maybe I'll give a point of view on the coming disruption or the clear present danger here and then answer it. But, I think folks are on different ends of the spectrum with AI. And what's been really interesting is I feel like marketers are the ones of everyone that I've met that is like bifurcated into like, I deeply believe that AI is like literally the future and everything's going to change, or this is like Web3, crypto, whatever, like another kind of passing trend that Silicon Valley gets excited about. And it's almost silly, honestly, for me to even say these words because I am in the first camp and deeply believe that AI is going to disrupt everything, and it already has and is. And marketers are actually in the strike zone, I would say, of a role and a function that will be disrupted. And so, I don't want to cast this doom and gloom kind of future because I actually think there are some things that AI just does really, really well. And these agents, as the foundational models get smarter, are going to be able to do much better. A lot of it's probably in terms of the markups kind of stuff, right? Or how do you generate specific campaigns or web analytics or whatever, some of in what I would consider deeper into the demand gen kind of org chart. But also on the other side of that, I believe there's things that AI will never be able to do, or even if it could do it, like we would still choose humanity to actually deliver that work than a machine. And to me, that's the empathetic, the human sort of like emotional type stuff, which is such a big driver for content creation. Like going from a world where we're just writing a blog post that doesn't matter if anyone reads it, as long as the Google algorithm ranks it, like that's ultimately what matters, to actually creating value. That's stuff that I think is really difficult for AI to have a cultural pulse on. Scott Belsky from Adobe had his great video about taste as sort of this very human thing that's going to be core for the next chapter of our industry and our practice. And I just don't see these brand creative type roles, events coming together in person, like being wildly disrupted in a negative sense from AI. So I actually think if you're a content marketer, it's probably the golden era, I would say, of your practice is coming, because creativity is going to be rewarded, authenticity, delivering value, all of these things that ultimately matter. And if you're a demand marketer, like lean into those things as a differentiator than more of the transactional kind of channels that may or may not be replaced by workflow or agentic workflow. So all that being said, the coming together of the companies is a really interesting one from a season perspective, because this innovation is happening now. And our ability to deliver this joint value to customers today versus a year from now, 5 years from now, I think is pretty critical, because there's a lot of these conversations being had right now about like, what does the marketing team of the future look like? How does content play into our kind of goals? And so companies are building those strategies today. And I think with the Audience Plus of the future, like it's going to be just a remarkable opportunity to help usher in this new era for B2B marketing teams.
Yeah, I love that. That's very eloquent, like legitimately. We had CMO of BlueConic on this podcast few months ago, and he's like, the initial fear of being replaced by AI, I think, has mostly gone away. But he's like, you won't be replaced by AI, but you'll be replaced by somebody with AI. The person who does know how to leverage the operational efficiencies of the tool is going to have a foot up in the market. And then you're right, that will actually create a broader gulf between the AI generated content and the more creative, more authentic, more genuine content. It's a gold rush for those people who can think creatively and know how to create the content that stands out in the market. I think it's a beautiful opportunity that should be exciting for the right marketers. So
exactly.
Really, really cool. Okay, well, you teed up where we're going with this as well again. So let's talk about where we're going as a business. So there's an FAQs document on AudiencePlus.com. Go into AudiencePlus, check out everything. All the resources are there, but the two brands are coming together, operating underneath the AudiencePlus brand. You might see some nods to the Juice traditional brand, if you will, here and there, but for all intents and purposes, we're one business. There's 3 products beneath the business of AudiencePlus, that is publish, distribute, and convert. For those familiar with our businesses, the publish is the traditional AudiencePlus capabilities, distribute the traditional Juice capabilities, and then convert is that data thread that ties the entire experience together. And for marketers, that means every step in the content journey, whether you're planning what content to create or helping your team figure out what content and who to convert on, we've got data at every step of the journey for that. So it's really exciting for all the reasons we've mentioned on this. But Anthony, I'm curious about you and kind of what your vision is for the path forward. I know that data piece is really excited, but what excited you most about this path forward with Audience Plus?
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like, selfishly, I guess, an acceleration of vision, and an ability to move quickly again to seize the opportunity that we're seeing in the market and then deliver value for our customers. The other component here is, as we were talking about earlier, is we've all been executing now this 20-year-old marketing playbook whose very founders say no longer works. I'm excited because now we have sort of a new playbook to present to the market for B2B. And this is something that, again, admittedly, like we hosted a conference called Golden Hour last year. We had 300 people there. We talked about the old marketing playbook no longer working, but we didn't present this new playbook or this new vision for the future. And now we have it, which is so exciting. And not just sort of best practices to talk about in a podcast or whatever, but actual product to help operationalize this for marketing teams. So it's a really exciting opportunity, exciting time. And, it couldn't be more happy to see what the future of Audience Plus looks like.
Yeah, I'm extremely excited about it as well. You mentioned the acceleration of the vision. I've used the completion of the vision. Yes. As we detailed here, like this is when we both sat down with JJ Watt for coffee. We both had this very similar vision, this very similar pain point that we were solving, just going about it different ways. And this allows us to complete that vision, but you're exactly right. It also allows us to accelerate how we get there, which is exciting for us. I think even more so, it's exciting for the people who get to use the technology and the playbook that you mentioned. So as I mentioned, there's a ton of documents, a ton of resources on AudiencePlus.com. All of the details on all 3 of those product lines, publish, distribute, and convert, are on the website. Go check it out. We want to hear from you. If you got questions, if you have curiosities, if you have ideas on that new playbook, we want to hear about it. We're excited about not only what it means for the existing product, but where we're going to continue to lean into that data thread, lean into all of the new AI emerging technologies. It's a really exciting time for B2B marketers, and we're excited to build it together. So we want to hear from you. So Anthony, we do always ask all of our guests kind of what's the best way to continue to learn from you or learn more about you? Kind of what are you up to now, and what is the best way marketers can connect?
Well, I'm excited, first of all, for you, Jonathan, be sort of taking helm and sort of stewardship of the brand. I'm really excited it's been an honor to meet so much of the team that you've built over the last couple of years here. And so really excited to be watching and not being too far away, but hopefully supporting where I can from an advisory kind of perspective. As for me, you can find me on LinkedIn. I can't sort of escape LinkedIn, and working through kind of what's coming next. Hopefully we'll have an announcement in the next month or so. But one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot through this journey is just how much I still love the craft of marketing. There's so much change happening, but there's, going back to our conversation about this sort of golden era that we're stepping into. And I just feel like I've got more love, more marketing in me to give, I guess. I don't know how else to put it, a marketer in me to give. So been working on something kind of quietly here in the sidelines and looking forward to sharing more, hopefully the next month or so, but excited about about that.
Cool. Yeah, everyone go check out Anthony on LinkedIn. He does share great content, great perspective, and we're excited to see what you're building as well and maybe play a small role in it.
That's right.
Anthony, this opportunity is so exciting. I appreciate you taking the time and kind of talking through all of it. We're really excited about the future. It's a exciting day for not only the two businesses, The Juice and AudiencePlus, coming together, but more importantly, we think for the marketers who get to use the technology. So Anthony, thanks so much for joining the Content Cocktail Hour. Until next time, cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining the Content Cocktail Hour powered by AudiencePlus. If you want to see more episodes or more resources curated for your role, join us at audienceplus.com. See you next time. Same place. Cheers.